Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. India's space dreams soar higher as Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates Skyroot's Infinity Campus in Hyderabad. President Murmu hails Operation Sindoor as pivotal in India's counter-terror strategy. Army Chief underscores 5S vision at Chanakya Defence Conclave. France to introduce a voluntary military service of 10 months beginning next summer in the face of a growing threat posed by Russia. Russia sentences 8 people to life in prison over huge 2022 explosions that partially destroyed the Crimean bridge. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the Indian space startup Skyroot's Infinity Campus in Hyderabad via video conferencing on Thursday. Prime Minister Modi also unveiled Skyroot's first orbital rocket, Vikram-1, with the capability to launch satellites to orbit. The state-of-the-art facility will have around 200,000 square feet of workspace for designing, developing, integrating and testing multiple launch vehicles, with a capacity to build one orbital rocket every month. Here's our report.
3, 2, 1, 0.
A major boost for India's private space ambitions. Hyderabad-based Skyroot Aerospace today opened its Infinity Campus, a facility dedicated to building and testing multiple launch vehicles under one roof. Inaugurated virtually by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the campus spans almost 2 lakh square feet and aims to manufacture one orbital rocket every month. At the heart of today's event was the unveiling of Vikram-1, Skyroot's first orbital class rocket capable of placing satellites into low Earth orbit. The company says the new facility will significantly speed up production timelines for the Vikram series. Skyroot, founded by former ISRO scientists Pawan Chandana and Bharat Dhaka, has been at the forefront of India's private space growth. In 2022, it became the first Indian private company to launch a rocket, Vikram-S, into space. Addressing the event, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the rise of private space companies reflect the success of recent reforms in the sector.
सरकार ने स्पेस सेक्टर को प्राइवेट इनोवेशन के लिए ओपन किया। नई स्पेस पॉलिसी तैयार की गई। हमने स्टार्टअप्स को, इंडस्ट्री को इनोवेशन के साथ जोड़ने का प्रयास किया। हमने इन स्पेस की स्थापना की, अपने स्टार्टअप्स के लिए इसरो की फैसिलिटीज और टेक्नोलॉजी को उपलब्ध कराया। यानी भारत ने बीते 6-7 वर्षों में ही अपने स्पेस सेक्टर को एक ओपन, कोऑपरेटिव और इनोवेशन ड्रिवन इकोसिस्टम में बदल दिया है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi also praised the contributions of India's Gen Z in taking the nation to new heights.
फिनटेक हो, एग्रीटेक हो, हेल्थ टेक हो, क्लाइमेट टेक हो, एजुटेक हो, डिफेंस टेक हो, हर क्षेत्र में भारत के युवा, हमारे जैन जी नए समाधान दे रहे हैं।
With the Infinity Campus now operational, Skyroot will accelerate work on commercial satellite launches using the Vikram series. The company says the new integrated facility housing manufacturing, assembly and testing will boost efficiency and reduce turnaround time. India's private space industry has expanded rapidly in recent years, driven by reforms that opened the sector for collaboration and investment. Skyroot's progress is seen as a key step towards building an Atmanirbhar competitive launch ecosystem. From New Delhi, Akshay Dongre, DD India.
Well, in an exclusive conversation with DD India, Skyroot Aerospace's co-founder and CEO Pawan Kumar Chandana expressed his gratitude to Prime Minister Narendra Modi for unveiling the company's first orbital rocket Vikram 1.
We are very proud that Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji himself took time to inaugurate India's largest rocket factory, which you see here. And he has also taken time to unveil India's first commercial rocket, Vikram 1, which you can see here. This is going to create new capability in India towards Honorable Prime Minister's goal to reach 50 launches by 2030. And for that, we created this infrastructure. And very happy, proud that Honorable Prime Minister himself has taken time to do the inauguration and unveil the rocket.
We're talking about Skyroot's Infinity Campus and their first orbital rocket Vikram 1. The Indian astronaut Subhanshu Shukla expressed optimism about the growth of Indian private space sector. Let's listen.
Today we are at Skyroot's Infinity Campus, which was inaugurated by our Honorable Prime Minister today morning. And in the background you can show the Vikram 1 rocket, which you can see going to launch in a few months' time, and I think this is going to be a defining moment for India's space journey, private sector, the first of its class orbital segment launch, and I'm very excited to see that and seeing this transforming how the world views India's private sector in space.
And to help us unpack the story and put it into context, we have with us Ratan Srivastav, space expert. Thank you, Mr. Srivastav. Now, how does Skyroot's ability to build, one orbital rocket per month is what they are saying, reshape India's launch capacity? Together with ISRO, how competitive does this make the Indian market globally?
Thank you, Mark, for inviting me for this discussion. And it was really heartening to note the statements from Pawan Chandana as well as from Group Captain Shukla. This, I would say, landmark moment today is a series of reforms that have taken place in the last 10 years. When I set out launching the space division at Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry back in 2017, I think we hardly had 15 or 20, fledgling kind of startups. And today we have more than 400 startups working in this space. We have InSpace, which is going to be the body which is going to bridge the distance between the industry and ISRO. Having said that, the requirement for orbital rockets in India is humongous because the need for satellites in low Earth orbit, putting into space up to 300, from 300 to, let's say, 500 kilogram category is amazing. So Agnikul is probably, following them very fast with Agniban. Vikram, of course, will be the first rocket which will be launched next year sometime. And SSLV, which is the ISRO's rocket for small satellites in low Earth orbit. These are all three rockets, I would say, working in the same category to enhance India's capabilities to launch multiple rockets on what we call as demand, on-demand launches, which can be done at low cost as well as in a very, I would say, efficient manner, because these rockets are now new generation rockets using carbon composite technology and cryogenic engines, which are 3D manufactured in India.
So does this Infinity Campus of Skyroot shift the balance between, government-led and private-led innovation? Because innovation is taking place in the private sector as well, and one can see that through all these startups.
No, Mark, that's a very interesting question that you asked me. I think it's not one against another. It's a collaborative effort. In fact, you probably are aware, and people may not be knowing this, but Pawan and Nagabharat both have cut their teeth at ISRO. Both were at Thiruvananthapuram at Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. This is where they cut their teeth. And besides, the fact is that their mentors, their advisors, are primarily ISRO scientists, retired ISRO scientists who are working with them to probably impart the experiences that they have had, so that they do not repeat the mistakes, and they do not reinvent the wheel, as we say. But this is, I think, a collaborative effort in which probably ISRO is going to be working on heavier rockets, human-rated rockets, or maybe rockets which can take about 7,000 kilograms. And the startup sector, the private sector, is now working at another segment of rockets. So if you look at segments, there are different segments, and there are different segments requiring different capabilities, capacities, and capital investment. We also know that PSLV, which is the workhorse of ISRO, is going to be launched through a consortium of industry, which is primarily from the public and the private sector, HAL, L&T, Godrej, and so on. So I think this is a collaborative effort, not a one against another effort.
Indeed,
in different segments.
True. And how does, Vikram 1 sort of rejuvenate the ecosystem for indigenous R&D, whether it is propulsion, materials, also all the technologies involved with satellites?
So absolutely. So Vikram 1, as you have noted, is a carbon composite vehicle, and it is using cryogenic 3D technology. So the cutting edge technology which is available today, and the startups with their hunger for doing, I would say, research work at the edge, is something which is driving the innovation and the R&D. And the R&D investment in the private sector is coming not only from, I would say, the industry, but also it's very heartening to note that private equity players are also coming into the game, and they are willing to invest, which actually is a long gestation game. It's not something that probably, you invest today and you get your results in 3 quarters. You don't do that in rockets. So if the private equity is also happy to invest and the industry is happy to invest, this means there is some, I would say, future for Indian industry and Indian, I would say, rockets, as well as satellites, to perform as a private sector and in a very competitive manner with other countries as well.
So this is rocket science, but how does it help in job creation, investment flows, regional development? Do you think this facility will act as a catalyst?
Mark, this facility obviously is a turning point, because somebody has invested in the humongous amount of money to create a center which is 200,000 square feet at the GMR Aerospace City, which is again, where a whole lot of development is taking place in the aviation and the aerospace ecosystem. Space and aerospace especially cannot survive without a cluster of companies, or I would say the industrial cluster, which will support them to build what they want to build. For example, in Thiruvananthapuram, we already have a cluster or an ecosystem which is supporting the R&D as well as rocket building in Thiruvananthapuram. We need to create many more clusters. A cluster in Hyderabad or a Bangalore, it works very well, because most of the rockets are going to be launched from south. But at the end of the day, there is much more that can be done in the aerospace and aviation ecosystem, which probably do not require only just rocket launches. R&D, for example, or satellite manufacturing can be up there in the north. So we need to create a countrywide ecosystem for space industry in going forward.
And finally, how does one make this sustainable for the long term? Because what are the global trends for commercial space flight? And how can we ensure that growth is taking place in collaboration with, let's say, what's happening across the world?
Thank you. It's a wonderful question, because, as I said, private equity or industry would not put its money where there's no ROI coming in. So the trend, for example, is now constellation and low Earth orbits. As you probably have seen, what SpaceX has done, and probably crowded up the entire, I would say, low Earth orbit. But at the same time, if we move forward, we need to have cost-effective low Earth orbit satellites which can satisfy the requirements for communication, I would say surveillance, for monitoring, for Earth observation, as well as for even mundane things like crop monitoring or marine systems and stuff like that. So we need cost-effective low Earth orbit satellites which can be launched by, again, these smaller vehicles like Vikram 1 or the Agnivan, which is coming up, or the SSLV, which probably do not have a range for geostationary, but for low Earth orbits, they really have a huge useful value.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Ratan Srivastav, space expert. Thank you for helping us
Thank
understand
you.
this story in greater detail. Now, coming up, the former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan's party demands meeting him in jail amid health worries. At least 75 people are dead, hundreds still missing. 3 suspects arrested in the Hong Kong fire tragedy. And Guinea-Bissau's military has appointed General Horta Enta Naman as the country's new leader, a day after seizing power and arresting the president.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lin. The French President Emmanuel Macron on Thursday said that France will introduce a voluntary military service of 10 months beginning next summer. France has decided this in the face of a growing threat posed by Russia. It is set to introduce a new national service starting next summer. The French President Macron spoke about the voluntary service during a speech to the troops at Varsay-Alliance et Ressay in southeastern France, in fact. And he also said that the volunteers, mostly aged between 18 and 19, would be deployed only on national soil.
Nouveau service national va être institué.
A new national service will be introduced gradually starting next summer. This service aims to achieve 3 specific objectives: strengthening the bond between our nation and our army, enhancing our nation's resilience, and consolidating the education of our youth.
The United States is treating the shooting of 2 National Guards near the White House as terrorism, and the 2 guards remain critical. The FBI has conducted multiple searches to connect all the dots with the motive of this attack.
New details are emerging in the Washington shooting that left 2 National Guard members critically injured near the White House. The United States is treating the shooting of the guards as a terrorism investigation. FBI Director Kash Patel said on Thursday that the suspected shooter of 2 National Guard members had worked in Afghanistan with partner forces. Officials added that the multiple search were conducted, including a suspect's last known residence. The suspect will be charged with possession of a firearm during a crime of violence.
It is an ongoing investigation of terrorism. Make no mistake about it. The FBI is leading out on this federal assault on a federal law enforcement officer investigation on many fronts. We have also executed multiple search warrants around the country, to include the subject's last known residence, which is in the state of Washington. The search warrant was executed on that house last night or early this morning, and it is an ongoing process. All the individuals found in the house have been interviewed, and some interviews remain ongoing. We will not stop until we interview anyone and everyone associated with the subject, the house, and every piece of his life.
Investigators confirmed the suspect, 29-year-old Rahmanullah Lakanwal, entered the United States in 2021 through Operation Allies Welcome, the Biden-era program created for Afghan fleeing the chaotic troop withdrawal. In a video statement, President Trump condemned the incident, calling it an act of terror.
This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. It was a crime against our entire nation. It was a crime against humanity.
In response to the attack, Trump announced plans to expand deportation efforts and said his administration would re examine Afghans who arrived after Taliban takeover. UN Citizenship and Immigration Services said it is pausing the processing of all Afghan immigration requests pending further review of security and vetting protocols. Separately, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced deployment of an additional 500 National Guard members to Washington.
President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army to the National Guard, to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful.
The shooting unfolded at midday outside a subway station in a bustling commercial area within a few blocks of the White House, has raised serious concerns of security. With agency inputs, Tripti Tripaঠি's report for DD India.
As the U.S.-Venezuela tensions escalate, the Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has denounced the U.S. sanctions and praised Venezuela's resilience. This comes amid a build-up of U.S. military in the region as the U.S. ramped up operations in the Caribbean in recent months, which have killed, quite a few people. Adamya Mishra reports.
US-Venezuela tensions escalated this week as American military aircrafts were spotted at the former Roosevelt Roads Naval Base in Puerto Rico, a visible show of force ahead of a possible new phase of operations. Footage showed Marine Corps CH-53E Super Stallions parked beside F-35B fighter jets, with several F-35Bs taxiing for takeoff. Marine Ospreys also landed at the base, which has become a major hub for U.S. deployment in the Caribbean. In Caracas, President Nicolas Maduro denounced U.S. sanctions and praised Venezuela's resilience.
With the sanctions from the years 2016, 2017 and 2018, which took away 99% of country's income, we nevertheless preserved. We organized, we pushed ourselves to the limit and moved forward step by step. And now we are finishing the year 2025 with an offensive of inaugurating public works. And today has been a Wednesday to launch 98 projects. Let's keep building.
On a visit to Dominican Republic, U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth expressed his gratitude to Dominican Republic for authorizing U.S. to use its airports for anti-drug operations in the Caribbean.
So I want to thank you, Mr. President, for supporting what is a temporary deployment of U.S. service members and aircraft conducting Operation Southern Spear. Small footprint, temporary, fully respecting your sovereignty and your laws and all the dynamics here in the Dominican Republic. It's a great partnership that we're, and truly a joint effort between our two countries against narco trafficking and narco terrorism.
In Trinidad and Tobago, residents and tourists continued normal activities despite reports that Washington could launch a new phase of operations targeting Venezuela. U.S. has stepped up Caribbean missions in recent months, including strikes on alleged drug trafficking vessels. Meanwhile, Venezuela has revoked operating rights for 6 major international airlines after they suspended flights to the country following a warning from the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration. U.S. says its military buildup is aimed at countering drug trafficking linked to President Maduro, while Maduro calls it a push to remove him from power. As U.S. forces tighten their presence in the Caribbean, Venezuela tackles the situation diplomatically and commercially, leaving the region on edge with military movements, air travel disruptions, and political accusations, all deepening on an already tense standoff. Adamya Mishra's report for DD India.
The Russia-Ukraine conflict has once again drawn global attention, with President Vladimir Putin outlining the Kremlin's conditions for halting hostilities. This development comes as Russia hands life sentences to 8 men over the Crimean bridge blast and further hardens its stance on Ukraine's NATO aspirations, even as Kiev prepares for fresh peace talks with Washington. Rupa Kumar Jha has the report.
Russian President Vladimir Putin said that the fighting would stop if Ukrainian troops withdrew from key areas, warning that Russia would otherwise seize its objectives by force. This comes after Russia reiterated that Ukraine's potential membership of NATO remains unacceptable to Moscow, calling the alliance's eastward expansion a direct security threat. The Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson said that NATO's continued attempts to pull Ukraine into its structure was one of the core reasons behind the current conflict.
NATO's attempt to drag Ukraine into its orbit still poses a threat to us. Ukraine's membership of this aggressive military alliance, which declared Russia its target, naming it a threat for security in all operational environment, is unacceptable for us. I repeat once again, because the sense of NATO's activity is the counteraction to our country.
Moscow's stance comes as Western and Ukrainian negotiators prepare for a fresh round of talks with focus on specific steps within a peace proposal currently under discussion. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha confirmed that US and Ukrainian teams will meet soon, where Ukraine expects concrete outcomes that could help advance efforts towards a ceasefire.
Найближчим часом слід очікувати.
In the nearest future, it should be expected that the negotiation teams will meet. What are we expecting? Our expectation are concrete results so that progress can be made. It is extremely important for us, and Ukraine has demonstrated this repeatedly to achieve a truce.
On Thursday, a Russian military court sentenced 8 men to life imprisonment over the 2022 explosions that severely damaged the Crimean bridge and killed 5 people. Kyiv later acknowledged responsibility, calling the attack a strategic strike aimed at disrupting Russian military logistics in occupied Crimea. As diplomatic maneuvering gathers pace, both sides remain locked in a tense standoff where the path to peace appears more intertwined with long-standing political red lines than ever.
The death toll from the fire that tore through the Hong Kong apartment complex has risen to 75, the city's government said on Thursday. Intense flames first took hold on a bamboo scaffolding on several 31-story apartment blocks of Wang Fuk Court on Wednesday in the northern district of Tai Po, which was undergoing estate-wide repairs. Hong Kong's chief executive John Lee said that 3 were arrested and further investigation is underway.
Police arrested 3 men around their 50s at midnight, who are the company executives in charge of the renovation at Wang Fuk Court. They are being detained at the moment. Police went to their office to collect evidence and conduct investigation.
Guinea-Bissau's military appointed General Hota Enta Na'man as the country's new leader for the duration of 1 year on Thursday, a day after seizing power, arresting the president and derailing the announcement of election results. The officers, referring to themselves as the High Military Command of the Restoration of Order. Meanwhile, the African Union Commission chairman has condemned the military coup in Guinea-Bissau and called for an immediate and unconditional release of the president, Umarao Sissoco Embalo, and all other detained officials. Amid growing concern over the well-being of the jailed former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Chief Minister Mohammad Sohail Khan Afridi visited Adaila jail on Thursday to inquire about his health. Mohammad Sohail Khan Afridi's visit comes after Khan's party had been demanding for an urgent meeting with him, saying that he has been denied access to his family and lawyers for more than 3 weeks. Imran Khan's family members and supporters have been staging protests outside the Rawalpindi prison, calling for authorities to call them to see him. Meanwhile, reports quoting an unnamed jail official claim that the former Prime Minister is in good health and that there are no plans to shift him to another facility. Imran Khan has been in jail since August of 2023, serving a 14-year sentence on corruption charges one of several cases that he insists are fabricated to push him out of politics. We're going to take a short break. Do stay with us.
For the longest time, we treated the Earth's resources as endless. But now the real challenge is to rethink how we use what we already have. Because how we manage the environment's resources will dictate our chances of survival.
He applied finely crushed basalt rock on 2 of his 4 fields and says the difference is clear to see.
It's like a window of opportunity. For every hour we are working with this project.
The pumped groundwater is first filtered. Then it goes into a tank and is filtered again. After that, it is collected in this tank where people can access it.
We have been making handicrafts from banana plants for quite some time now. Currently, we produce around 30 products.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lin. India and Indonesia have taken another major step in strengthening their defense partnership. The two nations came together in New Delhi for the third Defense Ministers' Dialogue, co-chaired by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh and his Indonesian counterpart, Sajafre Samajuddin. And this dialogue showcased the depth of trust and shared vision between the two countries. Rahul Upadhyay reports.
The third India-Indonesia Defence Ministers' Dialogue was held in New Delhi on Thursday. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh co-chaired the event alongside Indonesia's Defence Minister Safri Samsudin, reaffirming the long-standing strategic partnership and deepening bilateral defence cooperation. The ministers recalled the visit of Indonesia's President Prabowo Subianto to India earlier this year as the chief guest at the Republic Day celebrations 2025. They highlighted the wide-ranging discussions between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Subianto, which further strengthened the comprehensive strategic partnership. Speaking at the meeting, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said that the recent signing of the enhanced agreement on defence cooperation between India and Indonesia has strengthened both nations' commitment to augment defence collaboration.
Through the decades, our defence ties have flourished, built on the foundation of the mutual commitment to regional security. Today's dialogue serves as a testament to the growing strength of our defence cooperation, which is an important pillar of our cooperation.
Meanwhile, Indonesia's defence minister emphasized that the dialogue carries forward the strong momentum built since India's defence minister's visit to Indonesia in 2018.
I'm confident that our dialogue today will produce concrete outcomes that strengthen trust and advance the strategic partnership between our two defense establishments.
India and Indonesia reaffirmed their shared vision for a free, open and peaceful Indo-Pacific, pledging stronger cooperation in maritime security and cyber resilience. The dialogue also advanced defense industry collaboration with a proposal to set up a joint defense industry committee focusing on research, technology transfer and supply chain integration. Military-to-military ties continue to grow with expanded joint exercises such as Super Garuda Shield, Garuda Shakti, Samudra Shakti and Milan alongside officer exchanges and training programs. Both nations emphasized enhanced coordination in the Indian Ocean and support for ASEAN-led frameworks to strengthen regional security. India's submarine expertise and defense medicine capabilities will be shared with Indonesia, boosting technological and health resilience. India and Indonesia today stand as pillars of regional stability, bound by trust and shared vision. Their growing defense partnership not only strengthens bilateral ties but also reinforces peace, security, and prosperity across the Indo-Pacific region. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
The two-day Chanakya Defence Dialogue 2025 began in Delhi on Thursday. Addressing the conclave, President Murmu said that India's diplomacy, economic strength and armed forces collectively present a nation committed to peace while remaining fully prepared to defend its borders and citizens. Vishal Barristow reports. Praising the armed forces for their professionalism and patriotism, the president lauded the role of the Indian armed forces during Operation Sindoor against terrorism.
The recent success of Operation Sindoor stands as a defining moment in our counter-terror and deterrence strategy.
President Murmu underlined that the Indian armed forces have exemplified professionalism and patriotism in guarding the sovereignty of India. During every security challenge, be it conventional, counterinsurgency, or humanitarian, our forces have displayed remarkable adaptability.
I am happy to know that beyond its operational role, the Indian Defence Forces remain a pillar of national development. Apart from strengthening our frontiers, they have also helped in border area development through infrastructure, connectivity, tourism, and education.
On this occasion, the Chief of Army Staff stressed that the world has moved from bipolarity through a brief unipolar moment into an uncertain and fractured order. The starting point of the transformation, he said, lies in Prime Minister's 5S approach.
5S approach, that is Samman, Samvad, Sahyog, Samriddhi and Suraksha. English, it would mean respect, dialogue, cooperation, prosperity and security. It guides how the whole of nation ecosystem must deliberate, coordinate and act through the Amrit Kal towards a Viksit Bharat. It is from this vision that this year's dialogue draws its theme, reform to transform, Sashakt, Surakshit and Viksit Bharat, that is strong, secure and developed Bharat.
Speaking at the event, India's Defence Secretary Rajesh Kumar Singh said Prime Minister Narendra Modi emphasizes that government structures should not operate in silos and advocates a whole-of-nation approach.
Prime Minister Modi, throughout his every address that he makes to the civil and to the defence forces, always talks about the fact that government structures should not operate in silos, that we should bring about a whole-of-industry and even a whole-of-nation approach when it comes to developing and projecting our national power.
Day one of the Chanakya Defence Dialogue ended with the special address of the Chief of Defence Staff at the Manekshaw Centre. The CDS underscored the unpredictable nature of time and warfare as echoed in Chanakya's wisdom and principles.
There are a number of technologies which are actually shaping the outcome of war, but I have tried to shortlist about 4 trends which are going to shape based on technology. First, as called, is a celerity. Celerity is about speed and velocity. So unprecedented advances in stealth, precision, long range, variations in speed, right from a very slow-moving drone to hypersonics. So all this is going to transform warfare. Second, I think, is robotics and automation. So robotics may dominate our daily lives in future, and it's going to dominate even warfare.
The two-day defence conclave with the theme of reform to transform, Shashakt, Surakshit or Viksit Bharat, draws top military brass and academia from within the country and friendly nations across the globe.
The aim of Chanakya Defence Dialogue is to provide a platform to the national and international experts to provide insights on the emerging threats, on the technological advancements and also on the defence reforms. With cameraman Rajesh Ricky in Delhi, this is Vishal Barristow for DD India.
And to put these two stories into context, we have with us Lieutenant General Raj Shukla, retired, former Army Commander. Thank you very much, General Shukla. Now, how does, let's start with the India-Indonesia Defence Dialogue. How does it strengthen regional stability, let's say, and all these new concepts of war, cyber, geopolitical threats and the like?
So, India and Indonesia are two middle powers of great consequence in the Indo-Pacific. And there is great scope for cooperation in space, cyber, electronic warfare. Your report focused on collaboration in the military-industrial complexes. So the technology transfers, supply chains, maritime domain awareness. So the list is endless. But what we can do together by way of collaboration is to strengthen deterrence in order to keep the Indo-Pacific free and open. So those would be the broad objectives. Right. But insofar as the nitty-gritty is concerned, I've personally been a participant and I've led many delegations to Indonesia. It is really a power of growing consequence in the Pacific with considerable, shall I say, agility and investments in the military space. So military to military collaborations, they enhance interoperability, understanding of each other, and they also signal deterrence in a very sophisticated way.
General Shukla, they also propose a joint defense industry committee between India and Indonesia. So how will this, sort of strengthen supply chains in defense? Let's say you talk about joint R&D, technology transfer, you've talked about naval, so submarine capability, even medicine.
So let's take R&D. Mm-hmm. So a company like BYD today spends $15 billion on R&D annually. It has 120,000 engineers in R&D. India has just launched an R&D initiative targeted at the private sector for 1 lakh crores. So that's the value of R&D. And the next point is you take a thing like chips. From sand to finished product, the process of chip making passes through 75 countries. So you can't master the entire supply chain, but countries individually can, shall I say, master parts of the supply chain. So collaboration is necessary in these modern emerging technologies like chips, space, LEO, GEO. They are, business layers, they have attributes of national security. So say Indonesia is good in the GEO space, we are good in the LEO space, we could collaborate. So there are, collaboration I think is a strategic imperative today because technologies are expanding in such a manner, the R&D investments are so huge that collaboration makes a lot of sense.
Now let's move on to the Chanakya dialogue as well, General Shukla. And, the Army Chief has warned of declining long peace and a rising global disorder. So how best should India's defense establishment look at this? I mean, is this an opportunity or a threat?
If we use the opportunity wisely, we will minimize the threats. We will strengthen deterrence. So it's both an opportunity and a threat. But you see, the larger point I'd like to make is this, as I think the Army Chief pointed out, let me paraphrase it differently. Today, we see two geopolitical swivels. One is from economics to national security. If you take the upticks in global defense expenditures, the conflicts that are breaking out, so on and so forth. And second is that technology is driving national security like never before. And the third piece is of ideation and narration. So the Chanakya Defense Dialogue is useful in the sense, just like Raisina has started shaping conversations in the foreign policy space, the Chanakya Defense Dialogue is an attempt to shape conversations in the national security space. A country of India's strategic heft can artfully shape these conversations to strengthen deterrence. Why should national security conversations be happening in Shangri-La and not in New Delhi? I think so. Therefore, the initiative of the Indian Army and the Ministry of Defense is laudable. The ambition, scope, and impact of the dialogue has been growing year to year. This year, you see, we had the inauguration by the Honorable President. The Raksha Mantri speaks tomorrow. The Chief of Defense Staff has spoken. We have speakers from Netherlands, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Russia, Australia, South Korea, Japan. Nations big and small. Right. So we are coming together to dialogue on challenges of national security. And in the process, if we could shape opinion, shape the broader ideation and narration, it will be, I think, very useful for the Indian military too.
Right, indeed. And, one can ask the question also about whether these dialogues actually help hasten military modernization. Because at the end of the day, that's the big thing, isn't it? Are we caught in the past or are we moving into the future? So, and how does this actually help also to, bring about socio-economic growth in our country?
See, if we strengthen, let me put it this way. India is growing. It is in Amrit Kal moving towards the Vikasit Bharat, but we need to secure our growth in our eyes. So we concurrently need to invest in the military instrument, not to war fight, but to strengthen deterrence. So let's say asymmetric deterrence of China and a combat overmatch with Pakistan. So deterrence and development are complementary. The second point that you raised is equally valuable. National security today is so complex and sophisticated that you have to ideate well. See, look at the challenge with China. You have a book coming out on China in the USA every week. That is because the ideation there is deep. In our case, we have begun that journey, but our ideation needs to deepen greatly. All these areas that you spoke of, supply chains, strategic choke points, combat prowess, the military-industrial complex, these are areas of such deep expertise that you have to get your ideation right first so that the combat prowess is developed in the right direction, and then also sell your story. So smart military entities combine action, ideation and narration. And I think the Chanakya Defense Dialogue is a step in that direction.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Lieutenant General Raj Shukla, retired former Army Commander. Thank you for putting these stories into perspective for us.
Thank you. Great pleasure. Thank you.
Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Prime Minister Modi meets the women's cricket team, the blind women's cricket team, after the T20 World Cup triumph.
How much of India's democracy is really a British leftover?
It is outrageous to suggest that the British have any reason to applaud themselves that India is a democracy at the end of 200 years of colonial oppression. Those who demanded democracy were ruthlessly suppressed, arrested, beaten brutally, killed in many cases. There are very many countries that at different times in different ways became democratic without having to go through the great blessing of being oppressed, enslaved and colonized.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, a court in Bangladesh on Thursday sentenced the ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to 21 years in prison for corruption, a week after she was given the death penalty for crimes against humanity. She was sentenced in absentia on November 17 to death for crimes against humanity. 3 other cases had been brought against the ex-leader by the Anti-Corruption Commission over land grabs of lucrative plots in a suburb of the capital, Dhaka. The cyclonic storm Ditwa has formed off Sri Lanka's east coast, bringing heavy rain that may exceed 200 millimeters in several districts. Sri Lankan authorities say at least 40 people have been killed and 10 injured as floods and landslides continue to batter the island, with 21 others still missing. More than 1,800 families have been moved to temporary shelters and over 425 homes have been damaged. President Anura Kumara Dissanayaka has directed the MPs to return to their districts to coordinate relief as the Parliament suspends its budget debate. The new labour codes mark a significant step towards creating a more inclusive, safe and enabling work environment for women. The labour codes strengthen women's role in workplaces through greater representation in grievance as well as advisory bodies. Enhanced maternity support includes 26 weeks leave, simplified certification, nursing breaks and mandatory creche facilities. Women receive added flexibility through work from home options after maternity leave, wherever it's feasible. And if the employer does not provide prenatal confinement and also postnatal care, the woman is entitled to medical bonus of 3,500 rupees. Women workers can work in all establishments for all types of work. They may also work at night, and that is before 6 a.m. and beyond 7 p.m. With their consent, that is, and also if the employer is required to make adequate arrangements for their safety, facilities for their transportation as well. Now, employers shall not discriminate on the ground of gender in matters related to recruitment and wages. The 56th edition of IFFI is all set to conclude in Goa on Friday with a gala closing ceremony. The 9-day extravaganza witnessed masterpieces of cinematic work, world-class technology, business exchanges decked with unique initiatives. Deepika reports.
Stage is all set for the gala closing ceremony at the 56th edition of International Film Festival of India. Well, to make this event a grand success, the organizers left no stone unturned. From red carpets to masterclasses to inflated cinema halls, the organizers ensured that everything is in place to entertain, educate and aware the cinema lovers. Let's take a look at this report to know more. The 56th edition of IFFI comes closer towards its conclusion. The 9-day extravaganza weaved a story of production, co-production, collaboration, creative delight, and a seamless cultural rendezvous. From having screenings of national, international, and regional cinema to hosting the big stars of the cinema industry beyond the boundaries, IFFI showcased it all frame by frame. This is one such banner where the stars walked with grace and thanked IFFI. Young minds jumped in happiness and scripted an unforgettable moment and cultural performances bound all in an experience bringing the picture of incredible India to the globe.
So it's great to be in Goa. I love coming to the IFFI festival. It's absolutely amazing.
Well, IFFI has done a splendid work and I'm very proud to be part of IFFI.
We have to say thank you so much for our government that they are thinking a lot about new filmmakers and young talents.
Genuinely very grateful for NFDC Film Bazaar.
Firstly, thank you for having me at IFFI. I mean, honestly, the challenges are many in terms of getting the legality of it right.
IFFI, thanks to IFFI, that reminding those people that don't do this, respect old people.
IFFI not only brought an array of films together that includes gender bender like Poppy and Lala, Thudurum that boasts entertainment and technology, world premieres like The President's Cake, and films with social message like Khoya Paya, but also included specially restored items like Sholay Spike and films like 1989's Nagarjun's Shiva. The team at IFFI spent day and night to make it a huge success. Right from the rolling of the red carpets to the inflated cinema halls to ensure seamless entertainment, special postal exhibitions, IFFI turned Goa into the hub of entertainment and all things cinema. Each member of IFFI turned it into a delightful experience for the global audience. Now, as we move towards the day of awards, recognition and a memorable night, the stage is all set for the gala closing ceremony of the 56th edition that will also honor and remember the late legendary actor Dharmendra. So there you saw that how IFFI is beautifully decked up for the closing ceremony, and a lot of entertainment took place in so many days as of now. We'll get you all the latest on the closing ceremony with live visuals as well. Keep watching DD India.
Well, the India International Trade Fair, which was organized in New Delhi, concluded on Thursday. The IITF is organized annually by the India Trade Promotion Organization. The India International Trade Fair is one of India's most significant platforms for MSMEs, for artisans, startups and industries to connect with buyers and to expand their market reach. The IITF was held at Bharat Mandapam, which is developed to provide India with world-class venue for global exhibitions and summits. It spans 123 acres, includes 7 exhibition halls and has over 100,000 meters of square meters, that is, of display area. Let's get you the sports news now. And we'll start with hockey. The Indian hockey team beat New Zealand 3-2 in their 4th Sultan Azlan Shah Cup hockey match at Ipoh City in Malaysia Amit Rohidas, Sanjay and Selvam Karthi got onto the score sheet for India. George Baker scored twice for New Zealand. Amit Rohidas opened the scoring for India with a ferocious drag flick. They doubled their advantage as captain Sanjay converted from a penalty corner. In the fourth quarter, New Zealand restored parity. It was 2-2 through a penalty corner, but India struck right back as Selvam Karthi regained the advantage. The Indian players held their ground in the final stages and eked out a 3-2 win. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with the Indian women's blind cricket team, which won the T20 World Cup. The Prime Minister offered sweets and interacted with the players at his residence in New Delhi. The Indian team created history by winning the first ever T20 World Cup for the blind, defeating Nepal by 7 wickets in the final. The Indian team, led by captain Deepika TC, remained undefeated throughout the tournament, displaying teamwork and excellence. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour, but let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world. The DD India mobile app is available on iOS and Android platforms. You can scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lynn from all of us here in Delhi. Thank you for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.